Hello and welcome to another pastry lesson with us. Today we're going to be making fruit savarins. This same recipe can be used if you wanted to make some rum babas too. If this is your first time here, don't forget to click subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. As always, I'll put all the recipes and the equipment I use in the description below. That being said, let's get started. So we're going to start with 125 milliliters or half a cup of warm milk. I've just quickly warmed this in the microwave. And to that we're going to add 5 grams or half a teaspoon of dried yeast. And now 10 grams or 1 teaspoon of sugar. Any sugar you like will work here. Now just give that a quick mix and then we're going to leave it to sit for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes you should see a foam appear on the top. Alright, now that's fermented, you can add that to a large mixing bowl. And now we're going to sieve in 200 grams or 1.5 cups of bread flour. You might also find this is called strong flour. And now we're just going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And mix that together just to start getting that flour incorporated. Don't worry if your mixture looks a bit dry here, we are going to add more liquid ingredients in a minute. And now this mixture is becoming a bit stiff, so you might want to use a wooden spoon here. We're going to add in 2 whole eggs and beat them in well until smooth. And now we're going to take 50 grams or 1/4 cup of softened butter and dot that around the bowl like so. And then beat again until smooth. Just remember to take this butter out of your fridge an hour or 2 before you come to make this recipe or you will not be able to beat it in well. Alright, now that's done, we're going to take our piping bag and put in it a round piping tip. And then fill the bag with this mixture. Just be careful, it is quite runny. Okay, next up you're going to want to take a high-sided roasting tin and your savarin mould and a small amount of butter rubbed around with your finger, making sure you get every single surface, otherwise these will not come out of the moulds later. Please remember that the baking times and temperature I give are for moulds this small. If you want to do one big one, that's absolutely fine, but you'll have to adjust the temperature and time that they are in the oven. Okay, so now carefully pipe some of this mixture into each one of your savarin moulds. Do not fill it right to the top. Now this recipe is for 8 portions, however I'm going to do 4 portions of savarins, giving them 2 of these small ones each, and I'm also going to do a couple of rum babas. So for these babas I've just lightly greased 2 ramekins and then I'm going to fill about halfway up with the savarin mixture. And I'll cover them up with a tea towel, making sure that the tea towel doesn't touch them, for about half an hour until they've just started to rise. They do not need to double in size. Now I'm just going to take these rum babas out as they will have a completely different cooking time to these small savarins, so I'll cook them separately later. And into a preheated oven at 220 degrees centigrade or 428 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. So let's move on to the coulis. Start with 500 grams or 4 cups of fresh or frozen raspberries, and to that we're going to add in 100 grams or half a cup of sugar. Again, it doesn't matter what sugar you use here, and a tablespoon of lemon juice. And we're just going to place that on a low heat for about 10 minutes or until the raspberries are completely softened. And here we're going to make some stock syrup, so that's 300 milliliters or 1.25 cups of hot water with 300 grams or 1.5 cups of sugar, doesn't matter what sugar you use again, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And that's going to go on the heat on low just until the sugar's dissolved, and then you can pull it off and just keep it warm. This will be used for my savarans, but just before I put my rum babas in, I am going to of course add some rum. Anyway, it's been 10 minutes now and the coulis ready, so I can take that off the heat, and I'm just going to press the whole lot through a sieve into a jug. Now as you can see here, it does look a little bit runny for a coulis, but it's because it's hot. As it cools down, it will thicken. If you cook this down to the point where it's thick whilst it's hot, when it cools down you'll have jam. Anyway, so put that to one side and leave it to cool down. It's now been 15 minutes, so time to take those savarans out of the oven and leave them till cool enough to handle but not cold, and remove them all from the moulds. They should come out fairly easily. Now we're going to place these into our stock syrup, about 3 at a time, for about 10 to 20 seconds. If you don't put them in long enough, they'll be dry. If you put them in for too long, they will start falling apart. And once they've been in for 10 to 20 seconds, you can remove them and repeat the process with all the rest. And once I'd finished doing all my savarans, I added some rum to the stock syrup, and then I dipped in my babas after cutting them in half. And here's a quick and simple way of plating them. And whilst I was plating this baba, I also have a little bit of dark chocolate melting ready for my savarans. Anyway, now that's done, back to the savarans. So now I've put my dark chocolate into a cornet, which if you don't know how to make, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner too. Cut the end off, check that the flow is good, and then we're going to run this out right off the edges of each savarin. Okay, last couple of jobs now. We're going to cut up some fruit, and also we're going to make some creme chantilly. If you don't know how to make creme chantilly, I'll put a link to it in the top right hand corner for you now. So as I mentioned earlier, you can just make one huge savarin, cook it as one thing, fill the entire thing, and then cut slices of it for your guests. However, I much prefer how the smaller ones look. Time to plate up.